What's good, historians? Welcome to Black Tampa Historians Podcast, where we will be spilling the tea on Tampa's Black history. I'm yours truly, Ashley Morrow, and today we are talking to Miss Ersula Odom, author, publisher, history shop owner, and local Tampa historians. How are you doing, Miss Ersula?
I'm absolutely wonderful. How are you?
Awesome. I am fine. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm following in her footsteps because Miss Ursula has been doing podcasts and doing the things on YouTube for years, trying to help her out and reach as many people as we can in Tampa to share Tampa's Black history. Can you please let people know what's the name of your podcast?
Well, I have several things that I do. One is that I'm a part of NABWIC, which we have a podcast called NABWIC Talks, and that's National Association of Black Women in Construction. I have something called Wisdom and Young Legend, which is my own, where I talk to people that are like you, who are wise beyond their years, and they tell the stories of how they got to be that way, and we look into their future and see what's to come. I love those. And then every so often I will have something having to do with average and ordinary people and their stories. That's kind of it.
Awesome. Well, that's a lot. That's actually a lot. Miss Ursula wears many hats. It's just amazing all the things that she has done and has been a great inspiration for me. I will start off the way I met her is Miss Gloria Jean Royster actually told me about her over the phone, and I was like, "Oh, she's here in Tampa." She's like, "Yeah, she's here." She's like, "She has a history shop." I said, "Where's the history shop?" So I kind of just pulled up because I'm a pull up type of person, and Miss Ursula welcomed me with open arms. She has been amazing in sharing information and telling me how and where to find things that she has in her own history shop. She has books on the shelf that has a lot of information that has been very helpful in my journey in learning a lot of Tampa's Black history. So we really, 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 really have a gem here in Tampa. So what inspired you to open up a history shop?
Okay, so every time you ask me a question, I have like a armload of things that lead right up to it. So I try to get to the chase in a minute. But what happened is that I have a business where I publish books, I write books, and I was in an office behind African Extravaganza, and there was a bookshop here. They decided to move to St. Augustine and called me to see if I wanted that space. Well, I had not thought about doing that until that point because I was offering things online and eBay and Amazon and it and that kind of stuff. And when they said that, it was like it took me all of 2 minutes to go, "Ooh, I like that idea," and pursued it. As it turns out, they didn't necessarily need me to take over their lease or anything because they could just go. And that opened up the door for looking at different spaces within the spot. And there were two storefronts side by side. And I basically drove the management crazy because they were in the process of renovating it and they weren't ready to make decisions about who and how much and all of that. And I just went, when can I? And finally they relented and let me have it. So I got in and I loved it. I absolutely love it.
And that's where you are right now, here in
That's
Tampa.
where I am. Mhm.
Awesome. Yes, she has two beautiful units, like you said, side by side, joined by a door, and just a whole lot of resources and artifacts in that history shop. You see a photo of it behind her. It's amazing in there. It feels like, for me, it felt very cozy and like just warm when I walked in the door. Felt like you just want to sit down and read a book. Can you share with us some insight into the significance of Tampa's Black history and how it's impacted the community? Have you seen things that have gone up or have been built outside of your history shop that has brought people maybe into your history shop because they want to learn more about it?
Okay, so first of all, to your point about this being cozy, since you've been here, I've added two little coffee shop type tables in the front. So you can actually sit down and enjoy a cup of coffee, bring it with you, and have a conversation. So I've capitalized on what people are telling me already that this place is someplace that they feel comfortable and they go back into history and think about times long gone. And that's a good warm place for a lot of people, because when life was simple for them, didn't have to deal with their adult problems, they simply see things that take them back to that space.
Mm.
And to answer your question,
It can even be people, because I know I've come to you, like Miss Doris Ross Riddick, and I was like, and you're like, I have a book on that. Like anything that's just been outside of your, that people have come into your shop, like looking for something because they saw or heard or learned about something outside of, outside in the elements of just Tampa.
yeah, what I'm finding is that people are learning my name and learning that I at least love being a resource when I can. And so my name is being recommended. So half the people, if not more than that, that come in here or come in saying, Miss Dada told me to come by, or this person told me to come by. And there is by word of mouth a lot. Now, I've gotten a lot of publicity recently. Oh my goodness, and that is working. And that is totally working. So they're coming in looking for something that they can't find anywhere else, because we don't have a whole lot of black bookstores or black historical item stores. And so the choices are few, and I'm one of them.
Yeah, most certainly. Like I was saying, she has been an amazing resource because she's lived and done this work. It's a lot of work, and I've only done like a fraction of the amount of work that a lot of these authors, because it's a lot of digging. It's a lot of digging and a lot of researching, and knowing where to look and all the things. She knows where to look or where to go find a lot of information. So, and this history shop has definitely been one of the spaces to go to find that information as well. Can you tell me, how do you curate the items in your history shop?
Okay, anywhere I can. If you are riding with me and I'm traveling to, say, some performance in another city or another state, you don't want to do that, because I will stop at every bookstore, every thrift shop, everything I can find that I may be able to find some resource that is not in our area, or maybe someone that had one copy of it, got rid of it. I'm always sourcing. People are telling me about their collections that maybe someone who no longer, well, they're downsizing and they need to do something with it, but after taking care of it for so many years, they don't want to just throw it away. And to be able to put it in somebody's hands that wants it, that will cherish it, and that will make sure it gets into somebody else's possession who will appreciate it, they tend to offer that to me. And now let me back up and say something that you haven't asked me, but it's been on my tongue because of all the things you have asked. Ashley, you are an inspiration. And let me tell you why. Whenever I hear that door ring and the first thing that is said, it's me. Hey, Miss Ersula. You have no idea how happy that makes me, because it helps me answer the question that a lot of people ask. Well, where are the young people? They don't want to read. They don't care about history. I beg to differ. And you help me prove that point.
Yes, and I hope that more people come in there, because I'm trying to tell people, I'm trying to spread the gospel that you are here and you are a resource for people to be able, not to use, but to come in and learn from, and just she's just definitely a listening ear, and ask questions back. And sometimes we've disagreed, or had different opinions about certain things or different aspects of Tampa's Black history, and it's totally cool. And I would love for more conversations to take place like that, because that's how growth happens.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I enjoy those as well. When I said that one of the podcasts that I have is Wisdom and Young Legends, one of the premise behind that is that I heard someone say that the young man, and it was a man that said it, so I'm going to say it as he said it. The young man has the strength and the ability to cut the path in the woods, right? But the old man knows the way.
Yes,
And
I
so
love that.
when you have the competition of old, is it old or is it new? I say the best combination is when you have young and old. That's a dynamic duo because we benefit each other. Because the young man could go around in circles and never get anywhere, or it may take longer than it needs to. And the old man take longer than it needs to because it can't get there fast enough, or not have the strength to cut the path. So what a way to do it is to bring them together. That's what I like in life in general.
Yes, I remember when Miss Ursula told me that, I said that is some profound stuff. That makes a lot of sense because, like you say, just going in circles, and then it's like, okay, no, you need to go this way, and I'm like, okay, boom, here we are. Now we have reached the answer. So it definitely makes a lot of sense. I love that. What is that, like a proverb? What is that called?
Yeah, yeah. And then someone says biblical base, someone says a proverb from Africa. Whatever it is, it has gotten to us, and that we can benefit from it. And it doesn't mean that the old person is going to be telling you everything what to do. Like for instance, I could say, "Okay, Ashley, there's a cliff right there on the other side of that," and you go, "Hey, I'm going for a dive." But at least you know.
Right. Oh well, I think that leads into my next question as far as with you thinking about just giving guidance and everything. So now we're in a space in Tampa where it's time to preserve the things that are here in Tampa, and there are people that know the history of spaces or places, or people, and some things are getting knocked down, and some things are just getting left to the weather or whatever, what have you. What is your take on what do you think are some of the challenges with preserving some of Tampa's Black history specifically? Like Atlanta, I feel like there's other places that they do an amazing job at preserving, but Tampa.
I have not talked a lot about this. In fact, I just got the 5013C certification for it, but I have a nonprofit called Rescue in History.
Yes.
And the whole point of that is that a lot of times when people downsize, they get overwhelmed, they don't know what to do with it, and they throw things away. And years of our history goes away. And there's at least one person I know that I met at a book fair that makes a point of gathering Black history, maybe even one page or something. And the prices that they charge for that is just off the chain because they know that on an average, our material is rare because if there's 100 things printed, chances are one or two will survive. And whereas maybe a larger percentage of other people will save their history because they put it in scrapbooks and journals, and we're struggling to survive. So holding on to pieces of paper may not be a priority, but for me it is because that's where our history is.
Right. Yeah, I definitely feel that a lot of the history, especially people think history is just like big things where it has to do with big figures in Tampa, but Black history, if you are, or any history in that regard, is your grandparents, your parents, you preserving things, right? Like you told me one time, writing a journal. Right now, it doesn't have much value, but you look back at it 10, 20 years from now, you're going to think, wow, I thought that was going to work out. And you're thinking about looking at things that or situations you were in that were stressing you out. I think that that's a big thing to, definitely preserve the history, and history is happening right now.
So to that point, one of my elementary school classmates and I are writing the history of our hometown. And I hope I'm not pre-announcing it to anybody in that area yet because I'm not necessarily ready to do that. But he has a memory like a steel trap, and I have the artifacts to prove it. So when you put those two things together, I think I know that it's pretty cool. Because your memory, someone can say, you don't remember that. Not really. But when you have the facts in front of you, when you have the newspaper article in the scrapbook that I have from back in the day, or if you have the letter that someone sent, that's proof. And then you can stand firm on it. Another situation is where someone started a organization and someone else is trying to take credit for having done that. And we have the proof. So if we don't bring that into existence in print, then it's almost as if it doesn't exist. Because a lot of people say nobody's reading anymore, but half of what I do is not necessarily because I want the world to read everything. I'm trying to preserve it, because when you put it in print, at least it will be taken seriously as having happened, or it will document that you were the one that did it.
And there's something else that you do too that like commemorates Tampa's Black history. Your walls, they look amazing.
Yeah, my legacy walls came as a result of, well, first, what's funny about it is that I had an office in an incubator that was founded by James A. Hammond on 5508 50th Street is where it was. And it was a tiny little space. So I put up carpet on the wall. And because I was a legacy writer and a author, I think I had at that time, and I performed Mary McLeod Bethune, as opposed to trying to tell everybody everything in one conversation, I put on the wall legacy writer and what was underneath that, and author and something underneath that, and Mary McLeod Bethune. So I basically put my presentation on the wall, and whatever a person was whatever they gravitated toward is what I talked about.
Right.
And then I was walking up to a school one day, and I said, it's a shame, talking to the person that I was with, is that these people have these buildings named after them, and the people that go in there have no idea who they are. I say, for instance, Edison. And the person next to me said, Edison? I couldn't believe that. I went, Thomas Edison? And they, oh, okay. So a legacy wall was put in there that told the history of Thomas Edison.
Mm-hmm.
In the middle, it told the history of the people that came through there. And some of them were young people that just a little bit older than you. Maybe actually your age. No, they're a little bit older than you. And they had done things, or they were at a point where their careers were solid enough to at least say this is what they're doing in life. And then the teachers that came through there that spent 25 years or more, the founding classrooms, they were on it. All of that was on one wall. And it brought the whole story together.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of real estate to be used just for one image of an eagle that says nothing.
Right.
But when you can tell the story, you can educate while you're decorating.
Most certainly. Yeah, because I should have added a few more things on your tag. Definitely. Mary McLeod Bethune. What do you call that? You an actress or impersonator? What do you call that?
They used to call it Chautauqua, but I portray Mary McLeod Bethune.
Portrayer.
And the best known person that did that a lot, most of it people won't remember, but Hal Holbrook did Mark Twain. And he was so good at that, you forget who was who. You look at him and you think Mark Twain, but it was Hal Holbrook.
Oh, well, I hope that people see you and they think Mary McLeod Bethune because you're that good at it. And then you also, like I said, a graphic designer because you obviously do the legacy walls. So I remember when I first walked in Miss Ursula's office, I came back there and sat down, and I turned around, and I see this wall, this beautiful wall of I think it was for Booker T. Washington, and it just had all these facts and these amazing people that lived here in Tampa, that attended the school, or that had it had a lot of just different facts that I didn't even know I didn't know. And just from looking at her legacy walls, for me, how that's helpful is it just at least sends me in a direction to say, oh, here are some names that I could look up, or here are some facts that I can actually go research and include. Hold on. It's ambulance. Here are some facts and some research that I can include in what I want to learn about. So I think that's just a phenomenal thing. And younger people that may be interested in history, they might not even know that's a thing, and you may inspire people just by seeing, oh, this is something that I can do, you know?
Well, one of the things that we did at Edison that I try to incorporate with every reveal of a wall is the young people from the school, the elementary school, learned about the people that were on the wall, and they presented that information in a presentation on stage. And at Edison, I was able to, we invited some of those young people, and they were in the audience. So when it was over, I said, if your name was called from the stage, please stand up. And those kids just screamed, because one person's name was African, was an African with an African name, and they had to practice that name over and over and over and over again. And to see that person come in and stand up and say his name, and they realized that these people were real, they were alive, and they were successful. So they just had a ball with that. But even more importantly, they had the news come on, interviewing some of the students. And one little boy said, Edison was a man. He did that. And if he did it, I can do it too. I went, well, that right there.
Right there. You enjoy working with the youth. So you were just recently on the news, weren't you?
Yeah.
Yes. So I remember that you said that there were some kids that gave you some facts back. Like, so you're saying they're actually learning Black history in the classroom. Can you tell me about that?
Yes, it was so funny. I was going through African Americans of Tampa, because that's the book that they're familiar with,
Your book?
Yes, and in that book, well, their school is in that book several times. It is a historic location, so I'm going through the presentation talking about one person after another, and I talked about one of the people that got a scholarship to go to the University of Tampa, and he was a football player. And before I moved on to the next subject, a person said, well, what about Freddie Solomon? I went, no way. So what that person did in asking that question was, one, he knew the history that I was sharing, and he knew the connection between the person that he'd heard about that would have been that person's teammate at the time.
Awesome.
So that was cool.
I think that's amazing. And your book has definitely been a help and a resource for me. We did not learn almost any of that stuff in school. So I've been just, devouring as much information as I possibly can. What do you think those books do, the ones that you have published or written, what do you think those do to help preserve Tampa's history and disseminating the information?
Well, what I like is that I was able to sit down with several people and have them tell their own story. And the older they get, believe it or not, the more locked in those earlier memories are. So I had, like, Miss Reddick sat down and told me who was in the picture where she was a childhood queen. And one of them happened to be Fred Hearns' mother as a first grader. And she named all these people on that picture. And I was able to blow the picture up and invite Fred to lunch. And I said, Fred, that's your mama. And so those are things that would just go away if you don't capture them now. And in her case too, because of her phenomenal family, she has pictures. She has pictures of former enslaved individuals that are part of her family, and they were like a nanny to wealthy families that are historical families here in the Tampa Bay area, the McKay family and the Estridge family, and 3 schools are named after the people in this little grouping. 2 are Miss Reddick's relatives, being herself and her mother, and 1 is someone that her grand aunt took care of. So 3 people that are in that little circle have schools named for them: Estridge Elementary, Reddick Elementary, and James Elementary. They're all a part of that group.
That's
Ms. Reddick was the first Black woman to chair the school board, and Miss Estridge was the first white woman to chair the school board. And they're friends, and they're associated with the same former enslaved woman.
That's amazing. And it's art. Their histories are intertwined,
Yes.
so I feel like that can't go unnoted. Sometimes when you're learning Black history, at the same time you're gonna just learn. You're learning history in general, but I'm backwards. When you're learning history in general, you don't realize you're learning Black history sometimes as well.
Well, in fact, that's one of the things that you'll find when you come here is that I tend to love it when I find that the average and ordinary thing that people take for granted, when you dig deeper, you find that there's a Black person associated with it. Like, for instance, I have a table display now of train memorabilia. And when you think of train memorabilia, you don't think of Black people off the top of your head, right? Well, Elijah McCoy would beg to differ. Granville Woods would beg to differ. A. Philip Randolph would beg to differ. They all played a major role in what the railroad industry became. One, that it physically was able to function because of the invention that he had and the patents that he had, and the other because of the union that helped preserve the ability for uh, Pullman porters to function properly and be paid properly, treated properly, as a part of what A. Philip Randolph did. Black people were integral in the development of the railway. And then yes, we have the histories of segregation and Jim Crow, but when you look at what made it all come together, Black people are there, all through and through.
Most certainly. I feel like that's um, one of the things that people don't really realize when they're learning history, and it's like, well, we don't really hear ourselves in there, and sometimes like you don't know that you are hearing yourselves, you are hearing your culture in there. You just don't, you can't identify, you don't recognize it. And sometimes when you learn these names, now I can, if I hear names, I'm like, okay, boom, that's this family or that's that family, because I'm reading these books. And it's not going to, sometimes in these books they're not going to say, or these history books today, they're not going to say that was a Black man. But I appreciate when it does say that, because I want to know.
Well, that reminds me of something that I did not say earlier when we were talking about the legacy walls. I've gotten a new contract for a school in Miami, and I just happened to be telling my best friend about it, and she said, "What, huh?" And she was stuttering because it was a school that her uncle was a mason for. She went, "My uncle built that school,"
Wow.
and it had nothing to do with her. The first time she heard about it is when I told her I had the contract.
Right,
So it
right,
wasn't.
right.
She made that connection.
That's crazy. That's cool. That's
Yeah.
really cool. And congratulations, definitely congratulations on that. And bringing your friend, having friends that like are happy for you and your growth and all the things. Do you have any advice for anybody that wants to get into history, having a history a shop, or becoming a person that archives things and they like share things with other people? Do you have any advice for those people?
Yeah. Stop making it sound like it's so big. Here's what you do. Um, okay. You have one photograph. Okay. This is not appropriate, but this is like of a redwood or something like that. And maybe this is where someone went there on a vacation. And that's all you have. You have one photograph. Well, put that photograph on a scrapbook page, or if you don't like that kind of physical, scan it in, or it already is digital because of the camera that you have. But the point is, put it into a Word document and tell the story of what happened that day. Few words, who's there, just make a note of it with a photograph. And that right there is capturing history. If you have so many old photographs from someone scan them in, make note of who's on the photograph, and if you have to send them off to whoever wants them, some grandchild, some child, whatever, and get them out of your house, that's fine. But scan them and tell the story who's in there, in the picture. I have one 11 by 14, 11 by 17 sheet of paper that on there is a picture of a vase, which was my grandmother's wedding vase, a picture of her first two born children, because she had a set of twins. She had two sets of twins, and the first set is in that photograph. So I have that on there. I have her marriage certificate. I have a poem that I wrote about all of that. And I have the story that Uncle Johnny told about when he broke the other vase. All of that is on one page, and that's enough. That's one collection of information about different events that are linked in the history of my grandmother and her first two born children.
Right. That's great advice. Just get started.
Yeah.
Just get started. Don't make excuses if that's something you would love to do, because we definitely need more. We need more. Like, I don't. If you're a person that likes to collect cars, whatever, and you like the history of cars, and you have a shed or something, a big backyard, and you're collecting that. Figure out where your space is in history, and definitely just get started and collect as much history as you possibly can. In the future for your go ahead.
One more thing. Someone came in here, and I had the sports artwork. I guess it was like several tickets from a game, a Super Bowl game, and pictures and all. It was a collection of stuff, and that was framed and very nicely framed, and I had it for sale. And someone from here came in and was able to tell me a whole story about what was on that artwork. It's not artwork, but it's art when you put a collection of things together. So he had sports history by telling me what was in there and what this person did and who this person was and what happened in his career. He's from here, he's from there, he married this person. He had the whole story just by having someone framed from a couple of Super Bowl games.
That's cool.
He could tell the whole story.
That's cool. And that's history. It is definitely a story. When I first got into this, and I have a line sister that works at a history museum up in like South Carolina, I think in Raleigh. In Raleigh, I feel like she works there somewhere in a history museum there. And I was explaining to her while I was reading all of this Tampa history stuff. I was like, this is like a soap opera, and it just keeps going. And there's like all these like different little divots and like little rabbit holes you can go down. And she's like, yes, it's basically just a whole soap opera that you're reading, and it's already happened. And there's going to be so many routes. You're not going to be able to read all the routes, but once you find that main trunk or that main vein, things connect, and all these people know each other, and that it's all relevant. I wish we were able to go back in time and know their actual relationship with each other. Were they friendly? Were they foes? Like, what were their opinions of each other? How did they talk? How did they, run their meetings? What was their cadence of voice? Like, I really would love to hear all of that stuff. So, but my last question, because I know we're running out of time, is in the future, what are your future plans for your history shop?
Well, I want to have more little small events here. We just had the anniversary of the shop, and that went so well. My authors were able to present their stories about what happened in writing the book and why they wrote the book, and they interacted with each other. It was just wonderful. When it was time to go, I had to pretty much kick everybody out. It was like, oh, okay, wait a minute,
I'm sure. Right.
So that was really nice. So I want to do more of that.
And you have the space for it, so definitely use it. I love that for you. I really do love that for you, and I'm definitely an advocate and a supporter of events. I love bringing the people together and having that safe space for the conversations. That is what we love. And you're gonna be They're at an event that we're going to be hosting at 7th and Grove, Tampa's Black History Meet and Greet. So Miss Ursula is going to be the celebrities there. So definitely hit her up, check her out. She's very friendly. So walk up to her. I'm telling you, a gem, a whole gem. You guys really need to meet her and definitely go visit her. What is the address for your history shop, Miss Ursula?
1421 Tampa Park Plaza, Tampa, Florida 33605. And really, it's north of the train station and just north of Scott on Nebraska.
Awesome. Yeah, no, so I've been there a few times. I've loved it. That is all the time we have today. So, from the OG spots on Central Ave to the latest vibes, we are chatting with historians, creatives, everyday legends, and their descendants. Follow this page, hit play, and let's make Tampa history together. This is Ashley Morrow signing off. Bye.
Don't walk away, never walk away before we